I used to think I was blessed with good leg genetics until I saw how poorly some people trained their legs and saw the low effort that a lot of people put into their leg sessions. I then realized it wasn't just these genetics, obviously maybe better than some, but it's training with intent, training with intensity, and knowing which exercises you need to be doing and how often to be doing them to get the most out of your leg sessions. Let's be real, training legs can suck, but it sucks even less if you know what you're doing and you're actually seeing results from those sessions. When I was starting off at the gym, legs would have been easily the first thing that I'm going to skip if I don't feel like training, and I'm sure you might have been the exact same. Or maybe you just throw in a few leg presses, a few leg extensions, and then just call it a day, which again isn't a bad thing at certain times depending on your splits. But if you really want to build your legs, like I've done, then you need to have a proper structure with the right exercises and the same intensity that it takes to train your upper body. Fast forward to now, my legs are one of, if not my strongest body part, and I want to show you exactly how I built them. So if you're stuck with small legs, or you've got knee pain while you're squatting, or you just feel like you're not progressing as much as you should, then this one's for you. When I first started training, I wouldn't say that my legs were behind the rest of my body because I feel like my whole body lacked in muscle really, as you can see from some of these photos. But when I did get into training and training properly, even though I thought I was training hard, you can always be training harder. And I for sure as hell wasn't training very smart, especially when it came to legs. I avoided depth, no range of motion. I barely trained my hamstrings. I'm sure it would have been a seated leg curl, and that's about it. I basically didn't treat my legs with the same respect as I did with my upper body, which led for the first few years having that terrible physique where you don't look like you train legs, which nobody wants. Basically, like most people, I thought squats were enough. I thought I could do the leg press and get away with it. I thought if I did leg extension and leg curl, then that would be fine. But then that left me in the same position as everyone else, with no legs and an upper body that wasn't too desirable either. See, every muscle group is the same. Training your shoulders, your biceps, your triceps, whatever it might be. The only way to grow these muscles is taking them through a full range of motion, close to failure, and frequently. If anybody says you can't grow the calves, it's because they're not doing them the same way that you should be if you're trying to build your biceps, your triceps. Which leads me on to my first topic, the 3 biggest mistakes that I fixed, which helped the most in building my legs. Mistake number 1, rushing your range of motion. I used to go as heavy as possible, cut the depth short, and have the shakiest squats that you could possibly see. But as soon as I started slowing things down, focusing on the movement, focusing on where I could feel the stretch, the contraction, everything blew up from there. Now, if you're stuck on how to do this, 2 key things you could add in could be a pause squat. So lowering yourself down as far as you can for a 1 to 2 second pause before coming back up to the top. Or secondly, simply a tempo squat. So instead of going straight down and coming back up, try and take at least 3 to 4 seconds to actually get down to the bottom and then go back up. Now, slowing that down might mean that you stick to the same weight for a few weeks, but if you can do that and prove that you can really control that weight that you're shifting, I can guarantee that it's going to be easier to progress that weight over time and therefore build more muscle. Now, during the time that you're trying to grow your legs as much as you want, stability is going to be key. So if you're already shaky enough doing a barbell squat and your legs aren't growing, then try stick to a leg press for a while, try stick to a hack squat for a while, or try stick to a pendulum squat, or maybe a Smith machine squat. If things haven't been working at the start because you're too unstable, move to something that is stable while you get the feel of how everything works again. Start to get those building blocks going, and then if you want, you don't have to, transition back to barbell squats. But again, I want to make that crystal clear. Barbell squats are not, the best exercise there is. There is no best exercise. Whatever you respond best to is what is best. Personally, right now, I'm going through a phase of hack squats. Who knows, in 6 weeks, it might be Smith machine squats again, and then potentially after that, I might go back to barbell squats. You never know. Mistake number 2, neglecting your hamstrings. Now, similar to your arms, we know that your biceps have 2 muscles in the front, and then your triceps is made up of 3 muscles, so there's more mass there, right? So people always talk about training your triceps as much as possible because you need to build that to really have that full look of your arms. The same thing applies for your legs. Yes, your quadriceps have 4 muscles, hence quadriceps, but your hamstrings actually have 4 muscles as well. So 50-50 split, you should be putting as much effort into your hamstrings as you are to your quadriceps, if you want a well-rounded look on your legs. If this is the first time you're hearing this, then you're going to benefit massively from some more hamstring work than quadricep work, because the likelihood of your hamstrings being underdeveloped is huge. So when I first started training, I did my hamstrings, but as I mentioned previously, it was a lot of seated leg curl, lying leg curl, call it a day, done. Once I really put them into my workout plan, twice a week, with the same intensity, the same number of sets as my quadriceps, things were absolutely amazing. I started tracking my load.
What do you mean by that?
My reps, my rest, just like I did with my quads. And then before I knew it, I kind of felt to the point where it was balanced between my quadriceps and my hamstrings. And thinking about it now, I might even be more hamstring dominant than I am quads. A few key fundamentals to add in to those hamstring days is going to be your Romanian deadlifts. So a barbell, a dumbbell, Smith machine even, a kettlebell, whatever it is, working in that fully stretched position, I always feel is going to be best for your hamstrings. And then throw in a leg curl machine in there, whether that's seated or lying or both, and then you're going to have plenty of volume to really grow them. And finally, mistake number 3 is never progressing. So again, as I've mentioned, I've trained hard over time, but I wasn't always progressing, and it wasn't always with a structure. Once I started tracking every session, making sure that I'm going up in reps or weight, or a decrease in rest, is the best way to make results. Progression doesn't have to always be doing more weight. It can be 1 extra rep. It could be 2 extra reps. It could be finishing that set at the same weight and the same reps and thinking, I think that was a little bit better. So you know that you're progressing. And if that's happening every week, then you're on track to make results. Make sure you try add all 3 of these tips in, and I can guarantee that they'll make a difference. This next section, I want to talk about how I would structure my leg days. Now, I always split these into 2 separate days, one being more quadricep dominant and the other being more hamstring and glute dominant. Now, this doesn't mean that there's no hamstrings in the glute day or there's no quads in the hamstring day. There's a mix of both in every day, but it's more focused towards another one. Starting off with a quad dominant day, my first exercise is actually a hamstring curl. The reason for this, again, generally they're lacking for most people, so I'd start them off, but it's also a really good way to get my knees warmed up for my heavy squat pattern. Exercise 2 is going to be my squat pattern. Now, as I mentioned previously, it depends on what I'm feeling for that session, that week, that program, but it's always going to be a Smith machine, hack squat, pendulum squat, or a barbell squat. Something heavy, something I can push to failure, and something I enjoy. Exercise number 3 is actually going to be a Romanian deadlift. So again, this is my one compound movement for my hammies on that day, taking it all the way through failure, as stretched as possible. Absolutely perfect. It's all you need. Exercise number 4 is going to be a lunge pattern or any single leg pattern. So I could be doing walking lunges, a single leg press, a Bulgarian split squat, anything that's going to maximize knee flexion, because again, this is still a quadricep dominant session. And exercise 5 to finish it off will be a leg extension. Really burn them out. Put everything you can into this last exercise. 2 sets. That's all you need. Now, the difference to a hamstring focus session is going to be exactly this. Starting off again with a hamstring curl variation, this time with the focus of it being more activation. Now, I don't change the sets and reps. There's just a different focus behind it, which will make sense for the next exercise. Exercise 2 is going to be a Romanian deadlift. So I might do the same one. It might be barbell again. I've just now shifted this from exercise 3 up to exercise 2. Exercise 3 would be a thrusting pattern. Now, because hamstrings and glutes go hand in hand, because I'm training my Romanian deadlift in that lengthened position, I want something in that shortened position, and a hip thrust is going to get me exactly that. Exercise 4 will be a leg press. This is more of a non-negotiable because it's going to be perfect for quadriceps and glutes basically all at once. And then exercise 5, I'm going back to a leg extension or any kind of leg isolated movement. So if you don't like leg extension, then you might do something like a goblet squat. Now, in terms of sets and reps, I know that I didn't list them. I do pretty much everything, 2 working sets, as close to failure, and that's it. I do warm-up sets, of course, but I don't like to list out how many I do because it's going to change from exercise to exercise. If I'm doing a leg extension, I probably only need 1 because it's at the end of my workout. If my quads aren't warm by now, I've done something wrong. Whereas if I'm doing a Smith machine squat and I'm lifting 140 kilos, I don't want to go straight to there with one warm-up set. I might need 2 or 3 feeder sets to get me there. So it changes for every exercise. Now, the structure of these exercises, I wouldn't change too much for fatigue management throughout the session. So I always think it's good to have some kind of activation at the start where we've got that hamstring curl, our 2 or 3 heavy compound movements, something a little bit easier, and then another isolation movement at the end. Those 3 in the middle could be changed around to whatever you want to, whatever you have more focus on. Those first and fifth movements could be swapped, but I wouldn't change the order and go compound isolation, compound isolation. I would always have one at the start, one at the end, 3 in the middle. Now, topic number 3 is about nutrition and recovery. Just like building muscle around the rest of the body, if you want to build muscle, you have to eat. And if you want to build a lot of muscle around your legs, which you might be lacking, you need to eat a lot. So while you're going through this focus of trying to grow your legs, I would thoroughly encourage a calorie surplus, not only for the goal of actually building your legs, but for the goal of having energy to put into these heavy squats, Romanian deadlifts, thrusts, lunges, fuel before your workout, because these are some of the toughest sessions that you can do. Now, that's fuel beforehand, potentially during, and definitely after. If we're talking about pre-workout, I'm having high carbs, a little bit of protein to get in my protein intake, and low fat. I don't want to be feeling too sluggish while I'm at the gym, so I'm taking out that fat. If I want something while I'm in the gym, any form of lollies are going to make an absolute wonder after those first few sets of squats or Romanian deadlifts as a little bit of a pick-me-up. It could be placebo. I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but from my experience, it definitely helps. And then afterwards, we want fast sugars, so cereal, a little bit of protein if you want to, not a major, but get a lot of cereal, sugar into the body to really start that protein synthesis as quickly as possible. Now, again, we don't know if there's a limit, whether it's 5 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour and a half, whether you need to get protein in, but sometime within an hour window isn't going to hurt, and it's not going to be too detrimental if you miss that by a little bit. In terms of recovery, the way that I structure my leg days currently would be a Tuesday leg session, and then my next leg session would be a Saturday. So I've got Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in between, 3 full days. Now, after that Saturday, there's going to be a Sunday, a Monday, and then a Tuesday in between, and then my next leg session is going to be Wednesday. So 3 days in between. That's because I've already got my legs to a point where I'm extremely happy with them. If you're really focusing on trying to train your legs as much as possible and really build them up, you could reduce that by one day. So you could be doing a Monday, a Thursday, and then maybe a Sunday. And then after that might be a Wednesday, a Saturday, and a Tuesday. 2 days in between, I think, is perfect. Now, your fundamentals of recovery outside of this is your classic things: getting good sleep, sleeping 7 to 9 hours every single night, drinking a lot of water, getting your protein in, eating as much as you possibly can, where you're still hitting your calorie intake, and sticking to your schedule of where you're doing your leg days. If you've got them on the book on a Tuesday, train them on the effing Tuesday. Don't get there and go, oh, I can do this tomorrow, I'll do arms today, because you won't. You're going to get to that next day and go, actually, I'm going to rest today, and then it gets pushed out. If it's on a Tuesday, train it on a Tuesday. If it's again on a Friday, get it done on a Friday. If you have to do it early to get it out of the way, it's going to be better than skipping them. And I think that one tip alone made the biggest difference for myself when I was trying to grow my legs. Now, our final section, what I would do if I was starting over and building up my legs. Number 1, I would pick 4 to 5 movements only, do them 2 or 3 times a week, and really master these movements. I would ensure that I'm doing a squat pattern, a deadlift pattern, and a thrust pattern at least, and then my other movements around that I would pick and choose whatever I felt like. Number 2, I would be hitting legs at least twice a week, if not 3 times, depending on what my schedule allows. Number 3, I would be tracking my lifts every week, every session, taking variety out a little bit while I'm starting off, and again, linking back to point number 1, mastering the movements. Number 4, I would film some of my sets, especially these things like my squats and my hinges, to pick up on things I need to change to therefore improve the movement, to therefore help me build more muscle. And number 5, most importantly, staying consistent. You're not going to build your legs over 8 weeks, okay? I've been training nearly 7 years. Feel like I've got my legs to a pretty good point. You guys can be the judge. But this didn't come from just training them for 2 weeks and hitting heavy squats for 2 weeks, okay? This is years and years of work, just like the rest of my body. Now look, I get it. Training legs isn't sexy. You don't feel great afterwards because it's so difficult. But think about it this way. When you train your legs, you're training 50% of your body. Whereas when you train your upper body, you're breaking that up into at least 4 different subcategories. So the fatigue that it has on your central nervous system is nowhere near. So when you complete a leg day, congratulate yourself. You've done really well. But I can guarantee you, once your legs start to grow and they're bigger than your mates, which mine are, bigger than all my mates, and if there's any of them watching right now, you know they are. Once you start to see that strength and resilience from the leg days move over to all of your upper body days, when you're doing bench press, pull-ups, whatever it might be, it becomes slightly addictive. You have all the fundamentals now to build your legs. So what are you waiting for? Go out there and do it. If this helped you, drop a comment below and I'd love to hear what you want to learn about in the next video. Or more info on my online coaching, follow the links in the description.